Hello, and welcome to the Orthodontic Products Podcast. I'm your host, Allison Warner. In today's episode, sponsored by DynaFlex, we're taking a closer look at what's happening in the bracket space. While clear aligners have dominated the conversation in recent years, new data and what many orthodontists are seeing in their practices suggests a shift, with braces gaining ground again. So, what's driving that renewed interest, and how is the bracket category evolving in response? Joining me to discuss this is Darren Buddemeyer, CEO of DynaFlex. Darren has led the company for more than 30 years, growing it from a small lab into a major manufacturer of orthodontic products, appliances, and dental sleep medicine devices. In this conversation, we talk about where brackets fit in today's orthodontic landscape, how innovations in areas like self-ligation and bracket design are impacting efficiency and outcomes, and what orthodontists who may not have revisited brackets in a while might be missing. So let's get into it. Darren, thanks for joining me today.
Hi, Allison. Thank you for having me.
Okay, so last summer, the AAO released its Economics of Orthodontics survey, which showed that braces were gaining ground over aligners. So I wanted to find out what you're seeing from your vantage point, and also just talk about the bracket industry today and what those orthodontists who think who think that brackets haven't changed much, what they might be missing. So to get us started, when you look at both the data and what doctors are seeing in practice, what do you think is really driving this shift back towards braces?
That is a great question. And I think seeing the history behind aligners and the success that they've had over many years, uh, I enjoy seeing this statistic
Hmm.
and showing that, braces might be back at a higher level of demand than aligners are. And I think
Hmm.
several factors are a part of that. I think um, I think one of the reasons is, frankly, that brackets just have more control, and doctors have a more uh, predetermined outcome, I would say, that they're confident in. And
Hmm.
aligners, look, they have come a long way. The software's phenomenal. The amount and the types of attachments used really assist. The doctor's acceptance of IPR, which wasn't there, and I've been in orthodontics for a long time. Love this field, love this profession dearly. But the acceptance of IPR now is changed over the many years. And so I think, and certainly just my humble opinion, that aligners got close to what
Hmm.
brackets and wires can do.
Yeah.
And back in the days when doctors were actively bending wires and putting third order beauty bends into wires and really nitpicking their cases and wanting perfection, which I completely understand.
Hmm.
They were trying to achieve that with plastic that we all know is just holding on to the teeth and maybe not doing as much for root control
Mm.
as brackets and wires do. And I think now, that the bracket systems have come so far, with all the self-ligation
Hmm.
brackets that have been introduced into the market, whether you're, passive or active practitioner, the brackets just do a better job of moving teeth and adding to the efficiencies of a practice. So it's not surprising to me to see this trend.
Hmm.
And we compete in both spaces.
Yeah.
Aligners are a big part of what we do at DynaFlex, but also, brackets are a big part of what we do and what we try to, um, hone in and create the most efficient systems possible.
So, from a clinical standpoint, when you talk to orthodontists, what are you seeing in terms of the cases? What cases are they more heavily leaning back towards brackets when you talk to them?
Yeah, Allison, that's a great question. And I think you look at the types of cases that are more challenging for aligners. with less predictable outcomes. And also, aligners come with, the refinement rate is still very high in aligners
Hmm.
because of the forces you're placing on the teeth. Maybe it's the material used from multiple different aligner companies. Everybody has their own types of materials, but those materials, actively put a force on the teeth, and the forces aren't always equal, and the
Hmm.
outcomes aren't always equal or predictable. So when doctors look at these more difficult, challenging cases, I think in their mind, to gain the control, the efficiency, the predictability, I think those tougher cases are definitely better, or doctors feel like they might have more
Right.
control using braces. The other part of that is if there's any class two or class three showing at all, that's very difficult to achieve with aligners.
Mm.
That maybe another reason why, again, for predictability of outcome, that doctors would lean towards using braces or fixed brackets instead of aligners.
Yeah. There's a perception among some doctors that, brackets haven't changed much. What do you think they might be missing about how this category has evolved to treat those cases?
That's another really good question. And when you look at the studies, it's amazing to me how many doctors are still using a standard twin bracket
Mm.
and getting good results from that bracket. Been
Hmm.
around for a long time. Is typically pre-torque, pre-angulated. It's got everything built in that you would want. As you use elastics, there's some friction involved that you have to be aware of, but also now you have self-ligation that's
Hmm.
become extremely popular over the years. We've all heard and seen lectures by Dr. Dwight Damon, and he's done a fantastic job in his
Hmm.
bracket system. And so you've got companies now that are building different types of brackets that have various features that allow you to have more efficiency and gain some control where there that might have been lacking in earlier brackets. So I really believe self-ligating brackets have a huge advantage
Yeah.
for clinicians that are working with them and understand those mechanics.
Yeah. Okay. So you talked about the self-ligating brackets there. So talk to me a little bit more about how today's bracket systems kind of are addressing that efficiency in the practice, whether that's the chair time, the wire progression, or just reducing the need for adjustments.
Yeah, I think with the new bracket systems that are available to orthodontists today, I think that they do gain a lot of efficiencies, whether you're using a passive self-ligation bracket or you're using an active self-ligation bracket. Whatever you're comfortable with and whatever you choose. I think that both of those are better than previous brackets that were on the market. And there's certainly a lot of twin users. You can see that in the data of the JCO studies.
Hmm.
The way that we look at it is that we're trying to help doctors through innovation by using the most up to date, newest technology in the bracket and the bracket prescription. So again, this bracket prescription and technology that we're talking about for us is the Norris system.
Mm.
Dr. Norris developed a new system that we really fell in love with. There's a lot of reasons why: speed, efficiency, treatment time, appointment times.
Hmm.
But using a different slot size has been one of the key factors in why it's become such a great option.
Hmm.
And the slot size being an 020 by 026, falling right in between 018 and 022, we feel like is a better system. And
Yeah.
we're seeing that in the numbers, we're seeing that in the data, and not just through certain clinicians, but through a lot of doctors who are now involved in utilizing that bracket system.
Mm, okay. So I kind of want to get your thoughts on aesthetic systems because aesthetics remain a big driver for patients. So, how has innovation in bracket design changed the conversation with patients when it
Yeah.
comes to aesthetics?
Yeah, and that's that aligner versus brackets because
Right.
aligners are extremely aesthetic.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why, a lot of patients walk into their orthodontist office today and a lot of my friends and family members and they just want to fix this, and so without showing that they're doing anything. So
Yeah.
um what we've done is in conjunction with Dr. Norris has created the Norris Clear bracket, and
Ugh.
this was quite a challenge. And I don't want to get into all of the engineering and the mechanics that went behind this, but it was extremely challenging because you're taking a material, 99.9% aluminum oxide, that is a very good material, but
Mhm.
ceramics will never be the same as metal,
Okay.
and you can't expect the same type of performance in a ceramic setup as you do in a metal setup. However, after 4 long years of development and a lot of work with our engineers, we feel like we came up with the aesthetic bracket system that will set a new standard in the market.
Okay. So, from a practice management perspective, how should orthodontists be thinking about balancing aligners and brackets in their case mix right now? What do you hear when you talk to the orthodontists you're working with?
Well, I think it's extremely personal decision. I think some doctors feel very comfortable in their use of aligners and knowing the nuances and the challenges with aligners. And I think the doctors that lean more towards brackets, understand what they're going to get out of their system. And again, at the end of the day, everybody wants the best result for the patient possible,
Mhm.
right? And
Uh-huh.
they want to walk out the door on that last day and have a beautiful smile, feel confident, and all the reasons why we are all in this industry. And so I think the decision comes down to more how you structure things in your practice and what you understand about aesthetic orthodontics and how you want those patients to be treated.
Yeah. So, looking ahead at your own roadmap for DynaFlex, what's next for the company in the bracket space and where are you investing or innovating?
Well, we've been investing and innovating into the clear aesthetic bracket, and I think for I can tell you for a couple of reasons. One is we do see that there's some deficiencies in using aligners.
Hmm.
Um, there's a lot of efficiencies in using a passive self-ligating bracket system. Um, and so we did our best to combine that, and again, this was a challenging project that we love to work on and to create these types of super efficient brackets, and being able to come out with an aesthetic bracket that really I think hits on all levels of what doctors are looking for, what patients are looking for, and the performance and the with the aesthetic balance in this product. So that's been our main focus for the last 4 plus years is bringing something like this to the market that we're really proud of. And I think as it we're launching it at the AAO,
Okay.
and we've done a ton of clinical testing on it. A lot
Hmm.
of doctors involved in the clinical testing, and the results have been outstanding. And so
Yeah.
we're really excited to introduce this at the AAO and highlight this as our premier product, moving forward.
I wanted to find out, like, how does DynaFlex, as a full orthodontic lab, how does that feed into, this the interest in the increased demand for bracket cases? What does it mean to an orthodontist who is looking at their bracket options to have a company that has that full range of offerings?
Yeah, I think because we've been originally we started out as a lab,
Mhm.
and I have a lot of knowledge and experience from working, as a young person all the way in every single department of the lab.
Mm,
Starting out as a lab, there wasn't this need that there is today of a lot of upper arch development. And today, what we're seeing is doctors gravitating towards some sort of arch development in the upper arch and maybe some uprighting of the lower teeth. And those sort of changes make for tremendous efficiencies, not only for the patient, but for the practice as well. And so I'm really excited to see that, I think a lot of the residents coming out of school today are very comfortable with doing arch development.
mhm,
They're being taught more about utilizing some type of appliance, whether it's to expand or to distalize. Um, and so when you get finished with that therapy, and some call it phase one, the bracket part of that or the aligner part of that becomes a much simpler process. So for
mm,
us, being able to offer that to our current clients who, utilize their lab services and then move on to either our brackets or our aligners, for us, we feel like is a huge advantage, and it really brings a lot of synergy to DynaFlex and to our customer base.
hmm. Well, just to wrap up, more broadly, where do you see the most meaningful innovation happening in the bracket space over the next few years?
Well, selfishly, I would tell you that DynaFlex has the most innovative products for brackets over the next several years. But a lot of companies in this industry do a really good job of bringing out great products.
Mhm,
I do think this trend towards brackets will continue, and I and,
mhm,
and I think there's a lot of good reasons why. And I think that with the innovations of products like the Norris Clear that we're introducing at the AAO, I think is
mhm,
certainly going to help that, because you do have the full aesthetic option with a lot of control that you would see in a metal bracket. I mean, this thing is as tough and as strong as a metal bracket, and we built it that
mhm,
way
mhm,
to withstand the forces. You have to remember when you're using a ceramic or a clear bracket, the properties are a little different, but this bracket that we've developed, we feel like is really going to set the standard for the
mhm.
next many years.
Yeah. Well, Darren, thank you so much for helping me kind of unpack where things stand today. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you so much. I really enjoyed the podcast and the interview and look forward to seeing you at the AAO.
Yeah, definitely. All right. Take care. As always, thank you for joining us. Be sure to subscribe to the Orthodontic Products Podcast to keep up with the latest episodes. And be sure to check out orthodonticproductsonline.com to keep up with the latest industry news. Until next time, take care.